Quick video to answer a question: where do I put my function? Now you're declaring your function. So once you follow the anatomy guideline, you're giving it a return type, you're giving it an identifier, a name here, then you're providing the argument or parameter list, the function body, the statements within the body of the function, and a return statement if it is returning a value or not, or if it's void. Where do you put this function? And function declarations will go outside of main. Okay, you have to create the function outside of a function. You can't put the functions, you don't do that. So should it go above main, below main? And that depends. Here's the catch with that. So if you were to put your function below main, okay, here's kind of what the program is doing. Okay, once you start the program and it gets all of the preliminary preprocessor and namespace and all the other areas out of the way, then what it does is it looks for main. That's the function that it goes straight to, no matter what is in the way. So if we put function name above main, doesn't matter, it's still going to start from main. But there's a problem, and that problem is that here in this instance where we have this function that we've created, it's below main function here. There's a reference to this function before the function is actually defined. So think of this as the definition. This is the call. So if the definition is below the first call, there will be a problem, and that problem is because it's undefined. It's the same thing as if we were to create a variable below the first time we actually referenced it. So that's a problem. So how do we get around that? Well, if you declare a function below main, you must reference it first before you can call it. So you just need to provide a reference for it above in global space before you can actually use that. And you call that the function prototype. Okay, so here is that same layout, so to speak, here with a function prototype. And you put that function prototype in global space. It's right below that using namespace statement that you're putting up in there. So right below the namespace area, below the preprocessor, right in that global space, that is where you're going to put the function prototype. Now, how do you know what is the prototype? What's the syntax there? You take the the line that has the function declaration on there, just the top header of that function. You copy that with all of the declarations for the arguments. You got to let it know everything that's coming. So you got to say, hey, heads up, I got a Boolean return type function that's called function name, and there's no arguments here, so it's open and close parentheses. So look out for that. And yeah, and you treat it just like you would that declaration for a variable or anything else. Okay, if you had this function here, if this function had arguments inside of that, you would need to put those arguments up here, at least that it's expecting an integer or string or whatever the heck is inside of this argument list here. It should know that that's coming. Okay, so if you do not match the argument list up here, then it's going to think it's a different function. Okay, so that's how you do the function prototype. Just as a really quick demo, I'm going to go ahead and boot up Visual Studio. Okay, and let me get into a test application real quick. Alright, let's move this over here. Let me close all my other tabs here. Let me make sure too, I'm actually working in a source file. Alright, so here we go. Let's go ahead and do this example. I'm going to make a function called, let's make this a void return type, and I'm going to call this my name. Pretty worthless function here. Okay, inside of my name, I'm going to say my name is Tim. Time. Okay, now I'm going to call my name from main, and main needs a return statement. I'm going to return 0. Okay, so I've written my function, and now I have called it. Now, I'm going to go ahead and run this function here, and notice this. We do not have a prototype. You see this build error here? You see this identifier not found, my name. So there's no reference to my name, but I'm calling it first. So let's do our prototype. To prototype, simply copy and paste up here in this global space. Put a semicolon on the end of it. Now there's reference to my name. See how that lights up there? There's reference to it before we're calling. So it's saying, hey, watch out, there's this function, okay? And so as soon as it says, oh yeah, I knew that there was a reference to that. Let's go find it. Bam, there it is. Run it. So let's go ahead and now run this again. There it is. Okay, so that is function prototyping. Lastly, if you were to not prototype this function and you were told not to for some reason, you can still do this. You would have to simply give the program reference to the function before it's called, and you can do that by putting the function above main. So let me run it in this case here, and you will find that you do not need the prototype now because the function declaration is above main. So it's a real quick insight into function prototyping, why you need to use it if you have the function declaration below main. Typically, once more experienced programmers will always put their function declarations below main. It's easier to read the main function core of the program first. It's cleaner, it's neater, and it's no problem putting the prototypes up here. Okay, so hopefully that helps, and that's some insight into function prototyping.